I currently work at a Dollar Tree. For anybody that doesn't know, this is a dollar store. Actually, the one that I work at is $1.25 now, but you get the point. So this is an event that took place 2 months ago now. I'm a female and a part-time employee. I work all kinds of different shifts, and it's pretty random. It's really whenever I'm needed, and sometimes I work mornings, other times I work into the night. I'm also trained to do multiple things in the store, like be a cashier and do other tasks. One day I was working a Saturday shift. I think I was working from 1 p.m. until 9 p.m. So when I got to work, I was cashier for a while, but that was only for the first couple of hours. For the next part of my shift, we had 2 other employees working, so they went on the registers and I did some other tasks. We were kind of busy, but the store was not too crowded or anything. I remember that probably around 4 p.m., I had a bad interaction with a man who had entered the store. I had been stocking a shelf in the back and did that for maybe 5 minutes. Then I started walking away when I was done. As I was walking down an aisle near a back corner, there was a man standing in that aisle. I didn't really notice him until he stopped me when I was walking past. He said that he needed help with something at first, but it didn't take long before the man started to say some inappropriate things to me. It started by him basically trying to pick me up, but I wasn't interested. I tried to shake it off, but the man continued talking. It was making me uncomfortable, and I told him to stop. The man was pretty short, had dark hair, and had a somewhat skinny build. I didn't really feel too much in danger because of there being other people in the store and my coworkers there as well. I started just walking away from the guy, but he began to follow me. He was walking and still talking, but talking quietly. He was now telling me not to walk away from him and asking me what my problem was. I walked over to a coworker and the man continued. I told the man to stop, louder now, and told him to leave me alone. When he did not go away, my coworker got involved. At this point, the man finally left and then walked out of the store. I was really glad that he was finally gone. Every now and then we would get really strange customers, but I had never dealt with anything like that before. I really couldn't believe it. After that though, I went back to work and continued. The next few hours went by really well. I actually went back to cashier for a couple hours and then switched with the other employee. By now, I was almost off. I had less than an hour to go in my shift, and it was 8-something at night. The store was much quieter now, and I headed to go organize some shelves. One thing about our store is that many of the shelves get extremely disorganized. I don't know why this is, but I enjoy reorganizing everything and making it look nice. It's something we usually only do when the store is really quiet though. So I walked to this far back corner of the store. The aisle was empty and there was a lot of things needing to be organized. I started on one of the shelves. I was maybe 2 or 3 minutes in when I heard something to my right. So there were these 2 kind of large boxes in the aisle. I'm not sure exactly what had been in them. Maybe a bunch of toy balls or something like that. But it was almost empty. I looked over and then saw the same man from earlier emerging from one of those boxes. I couldn't believe my eyes. He had been hiding inside of it. But before I could do anything, the man jumped out of the box, all while looking right at me. He then started to walk towards me and I moved away. The guy had to be insane or something. I backed away but was now in the complete corner of the store. I asked the guy what he was doing. He did not say anything but kept moving closer. There was a bunch of shopping baskets stacked nearby, and I grabbed one of them as the man got within 5 feet of me. I used it as a shield against him in case he kept coming closer. He got within a few feet and I held out the basket. I told him very loudly to leave me alone, and he told me to be quiet. I was hoping that my coworker could hear me. The man was still standing there with just the shopping basket between us. He asked me to leave the store with him and I said no. As he continued to try to persuade me, I heard my coworker approaching. When she entered the aisle, the man told her to go away. My coworker then threatened to call the police. The man took a few steps away from me and towards my coworker. We both told him to leave over and over. Finally, the man walked out of the store. He walked along the sidewalk out front and then went out of sight. Of course, we were both worried that he would come back or was waiting for us outside. My coworker watched by the door, and I went around the store and realized that there were no other shoppers inside. We decided to lock the doors then and close early to be safe. We called the police, and they came out and we told them everything about the guy. They looked around a little bit, but he was gone. After that, both of us went home. We also reported the man to our other coworkers, and he got banned from the store. Luckily, I haven't seen him since, and I'm hoping that he never comes back. This took place about 3 weeks back. It was the morning time, and my girlfriend Alyssa and I were going on a day trip about 2 hours away. But shortly after we left, maybe 5 minutes into the drive, Alyssa remembered something and asked me to stop. There was a Dollar Tree right off the road coming up, so I pulled off. We were in an area with quite a few stores, but I felt like the Dollar Tree would be the fastest in and out. So I pulled into the parking lot and parked right in front of the building. Alyssa said that she would just run inside really quick and would be right back. So I stayed inside of the car and kept it running while she went in. I was guessing that she would be out within 2 or 3 minutes, seeing as that she only had to get one thing. So I sat there and just looked around the parking lot. It was a beautiful sunny day and things seemed pretty calm. However, within probably 30 seconds, I noticed the automatic doors of the Dollar Tree opening. A man walked out, who was wearing a backwards baseball hat, and he started walking on the sidewalk out front of the store. He put a cigarette into his mouth, and then he looked over at me as he passed by my car. But instead of continuing to walk down the sidewalk, the man stopped and then headed over towards me. I had a bad feeling when I saw this. I really didn't know what this man could possibly want. He went right up to my driver's window, and I rolled it down about halfway. The man asked me if I had some money for him, or if I would give him a ride. I told the guy no, I was in a hurry. The man did not respond, but then tried opening my driver's door. Luckily, it was locked. Now, I wasn't quite sure what to do. I rolled my window back up, but I couldn't drive away because Alyssa was still inside. I was hoping that she would come out soon. The man stayed by my driver's door and started knocking on the window almost as soon as I had closed it. I told the man to go away, but he did not. The guy started getting a little bit aggressive, calling me names and telling me to come out of the car. I tried to just ignore it. Then the man took a punch at my window. Luckily, it didn't break or anything. It was just after this that I saw the doors open to the Dollar Tree out of the corner of my eye. I looked over and Alyssa was walking out. She began walking to my car, but I saw the man finally leave my car only to start approaching her. I didn't know what he was planning to do. If he was going to try to ask her for money as well or what, but I didn't want him going near her. I opened up my driver's door and left the car. I shouted to the man to come back, and I may have called him a name as well. He stopped approaching Alyssa, who was about halfway to the car, and now probably very confused. He turned around and started walking back over to me. The man looked angry, but at the same time, almost happy. It was like he was looking forward to fighting me, and as he approached, I told Alyssa to get in the car. I sprinted back around to my driver's door and got inside while the man chased after me. Alyssa sprinted to the passenger side door and was able to get inside easily. After we both made it in, we locked our doors, and the man was now directly in front of my car, about to reach my driver's door. I was able to lock it just in time, and after the man tried the door, he started to repeatedly punch at my window. I quickly put the car into reverse, backed away, and then left the parking lot. The man tried chasing after us on foot, but obviously we were able to outrun him easily. Alyssa asked me what on earth that was all about. I told her the story, and then she called the police, reporting the whole incident. We were told that an officer would go to the Dollar Tree and look for the man. Then we went on with our drive. Looking back at that moment, we came extremely close to the man possibly trying to attack one of us. I feel very lucky to have escaped. Sure, maybe I could have taken him in a fight. That's just not a situation that I wanted to be in. Hopefully that man didn't bother anybody else. There's a local dollar store in my neighborhood that's pretty close to my apartment. It's closer to my place than other stores like Target, Walmart, or grocery stores. So I used to go there basically all the time. I would say I was there twice a week at least just to get whatever I needed. It would take like 2 or 3 minutes to drive to there from my place. The store was like most dollar stores and was somewhat small. It usually wasn't that busy either, which was also nice. So one evening, I went to the dollar store to get a few things. I walked inside, and like normal, it wasn't that busy. There were just a few people here and there shopping throughout the store. I began looking for the first thing that I was going to buy when a woman approached me. This woman had dark hair and was short, and she wore glasses and a black coat. After approaching me, she said that she saw me in here all the time. I said yes, I did shop here quite a bit. The woman then described some things that I usually bought. She said how she always saw me get the off-brand Gatorade and the one brand of chips that I would always get. Now this seemed kind of weird to me. I mean, how close was she watching me to memorize all this stuff? I just said yes and sort of laughed it off. The conversation ended shortly after with the woman saying she would see me later and then walking away. I continued my shopping and did not see the lady until almost the end of my shopping trip. When I was almost done, I remember I was in an aisle and I happened to look out randomly. I saw the woman walking by to another aisle and filming me with her phone. She was trying to hide it, but doing a terrible job. I could see the phone pointed right at me. The woman did not look at me and walked past, but then she started looking at a product on a shelf about 20 feet away from me. Even though she was looking at some items and not in my direction, she kept her phone facing me the entire time. I was so confused, and I thought about confronting her, but instead, I decided to just check out and leave. When I started walking away, I saw the woman angle her phone to keep it on me as I walked. When I looked over, she finally quickly moved it away. Once more, I thought about confronting her, but decided not to. As weird as this was, it didn't bother me too much, as long as something like this didn't happen again. I headed up and paid for my items and then left the store. The woman did not follow me or anything, and was still inside when I left. So after getting out of the dollar store, I headed back home. It was probably just 2 or 3 days later that I was at the store again. I had sort of forgotten about the woman, and this time that I shopped there, I don't remember noticing her at all. But the next time I was there, she was back again. This was maybe a few days after that, so roughly a week after our last interaction. It was a little bit later at night, and the dollar store was very quiet when I walked in. I did not see the lady inside at all. I was able to go around the store and get the items that I wanted to buy. When I was sort of near the front end of the store though, I noticed something out the front windows. The windows looked out to the parking lot, and you could see a good amount of it. There were maybe 3 or 4 cars in the entire lot. I saw the same woman from before, standing next to my car, and she appeared to be either filming it or taking pictures of it. She was clearly holding her phone right up next to it. She also got my license plates. When I saw this, I decided to leave. I checked out and kept an eye on the woman the whole time. I watched her then try to open one of the doors to my car, but it was locked. Then I left the store. As soon as I made it out of the doors, I just barely saw the woman go behind another nearby car in the parking lot. When I reached my car, I called out to her, asking what she was doing near my vehicle. I got no response. I knew that the woman was hiding behind the car that was about 30 feet away, but she was not answering me. I did not figure it to be a good idea to approach her or to say anything else. Instead, I just got into my car and left. I drove home and then decided that I would not go back to that dollar store for a while, and I haven't been back since then. This was about 6 months ago. I've not seen the lady at all, and I'm hoping that I never see her again. When I was younger, I worked at a dollar store called Family Dollar. It was one of my first jobs, and I was 17 years old. I lived at home during this time with my parents in a neighborhood that was really close to work. I could go there just by taking a few sidewalks, and it took maybe 10 minutes to walk there. So most of the time, I would walk to and from work. I did not have a car yet anyways. So one time, I worked until 9 o'clock at night. It had been a pretty typical shift to that point, and I clocked out and left when I was done. I began walking home along the quiet streets. The street directly in front of the Family Dollar was somewhat busy during the day, but not really at night. Then the roads behind the Family Dollar were mostly residential, and usually very quiet. We lived just a few blocks behind it. Normally, when I would walk home, there would be nobody else on the sidewalk. But on this night, a man was following me. I first noticed him probably 2 minutes into the walk. I heard the footsteps a ways back, and I looked over my shoulder. I saw a man walking, but I actually recognized him. He had been inside of the dollar store earlier in the day. In fact, he had come to my register where I was a cashier. Except this guy had been there much earlier. I'm talking like 5 hours earlier, and I hadn't seen him come back inside the store or anything since then. So this seemed sort of strange to me. I kept walking, and when I turned to go down another street, he followed me. I was starting to get nervous. I really wasn't that far away from home, so this was becoming more and more of a problem. Soon I reached my street. I turned to go down it and just hoped that the man wouldn't do the same. But he did. I couldn't go to my house, so I went to the end of the street and then started to head for the street behind my house. The man followed me the entire way. After walking down that street, I quickly turned a corner. The man was not right behind me or anything, so it would take probably 20 seconds for him to reach the corner and then be able to see me. So in the short time that he couldn't see me, I ran into a neighbor's yard and then cut through their backyard. After going behind their house, I cut through a couple more yards and then I was in my backyard. I quickly went around to my house and went inside. I was out of breath from running and my heart was racing from the experience, but I felt much better now that I was safe. I watched out of the front windows for a while to see if the man would walk past, and to my surprise, I did end up seeing him walking down the street. I didn't think that was a coincidence. Luckily, he did not go into our yard or anything, so I was confident that he didn't know where I lived. I told my parents about it, and they told me that I should drive to work next time. My mom did not need to use her car during the time of my next shift, and said that I could use it. Even though it would take less than a minute to drive there, I did. The next time I worked was 2 days later. I once again worked another shift that ended at around 9 o'clock at night. During that time, I was working as a cashier, and a few hours into this shift, everything was pretty quiet. I happened to look over though, and I noticed the man who had followed me home entering the store. When I saw him, I got really nervous. I didn't know what he was going to do. The man went into some random aisle and then went out of my sight. I was dreading having to ring him up when he checked out. I tried my best to just ignore it and tried to think about other things. But after a while, I noticed the man leaving. He did not buy anything and didn't check out. I felt relieved. For the rest of my shift, I didn't see him. So on this night, when I got off, I left the store and I went to my mom's car in the parking lot. When I got inside, I started up the engine and began leaving. But when I was driving out of the parking lot, I saw the lights turn on from another car in the lot, and then that one started to leave. Instantly, I got paranoid and was worried that this was the same man. And when I took a left and headed to my street, the car behind me also took a left. I drove to my street and turned onto it, and so did the car behind me. I just knew that this was the same guy. I drove past my house and then went to the street behind me once again. This time though, I left that street and started driving to try to find the local police station. I had to look up directions, but was able to make it there within about 10 minutes. When I pulled into the parking lot, the car behind me was still there, but did not pull in after me. I parked and went into the police station and reported everything. Of course, I had no proof that the person in the car behind me was the same man, but I had more than a hunch. I also did not get the license plate. I couldn't see it in the dark, but I was hoping that the police would be able to do something. I did not want to get followed home from work again. After speaking with police, I called my parents and I told them about what had happened. Then I went home. The next time I worked, I was really worried that I would be followed again or see the man or something. I knew to call the police if I noticed him again though. When I got to work, I told my coworker about the story, and surprisingly, my coworker Tori seemed to know the man that I was talking about. Tori was older than me and worked at the dollar store full time. When I described the man, she said that it sounded a lot like a guy that she kind of knew. She told me that he was a creep and had a mutual friend with her. After work that night, I was extremely careful and looked all around. Tori even walked to my car with me, and luckily I was not followed home or anything. The next time that I worked after that was several nights later. When I got to work, Tori was working as well. She told me that the man she knew, who was also likely the same man who had followed me, had been arrested. She said that apparently he was driving with drugs in his car and led the police on a chase for a while. When I saw a picture of him, I confirmed that it was the same man. It was a huge relief, and I went to the police after work and told them that that was the same guy who had followed me. This was a long time ago now, but I will never forget it. I only worked at the Family Dollar for a few months and then quit. Looking back, that was definitely the scariest thing to ever happen to me when I worked there. This story takes place just last week. It was a Saturday evening just before sunset. I went to the dollar store just to get a couple of snacks. I had been there a number of previous times, and it was pretty close to my apartment. The store was called Dollar Tree, and everything inside was around $1. So I got to the store and parked my car. Then I got out. I was walking into the store, and literally in the first aisle when I saw a man approaching me. He was wearing a green shirt with the Dollar Tree logo on it. The man approached me and said that I wasn't allowed to be in here. I was really confused. He told me to get out of the store, and I asked him why. He said because I was banned. Now, I knew for a fact that I was not banned, and I had never had a bad interaction with anybody there. I said he must have the wrong guy. The man told me again to leave or he was going to call the police on me. I really couldn't believe it. I asked the guy what I did to get banned. He told me that I knew exactly what I did, and then motioned for me to get out of the store. At this point, I really didn't know what was going on, but I figured that I would just leave. The guy seemed to be pretty angry about it and was not going to listen to me no matter what I said. I started walking out of the store, and the man followed me the entire way. We both made it outside, and the man told me to leave the property. I asked him once more why I was banned, but he did not answer me. Instead, he told me not to get smart with him and asked me if I wanted to try him. I was not interested in fighting this guy, but as I was starting to walk back to my car, I noticed out on the road a police car starting to approach. The man who was with me turned and just took off running, going around the side of the Dollar Tree building. Behind it were some other businesses. I was still extremely confused, and now even more so at this point. The police car then pulled into the parking lot. I just stood there. After the police parked, 2 officers got out. One of them asked me if I had seen the guy who was pretending to work there. I realized then that the guy who kicked me out of the store was probably a fake employee. I guess the police hadn't seen him running away when they were driving up. I said yes and told the police where the man had ran. One of the officers headed in that direction, and the other officer went inside. I went back in the dollar store and found an employee. When I told her of what had happened, she said that the guy had been pretending to work there and was harassing multiple customers. When they asked him to leave and he did not, they called the police. Then he went out of their sight and they thought that maybe he had left. Apparently, he came back to harass me. I was able to complete my shopping. By the time that I was done, the police had left to catch up with the guy wherever he had gone. I was just glad that I was not actually banned, and I realized what had happened. That man's behavior was very bizarre. That experience was something that I will never forget.